Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.
To chat a little after sometimes. Huh?
It's a pleasure to talk to you again and to see you again.
Yeah. Would be nice to play, but yeah, okay. It's at least that it's good. But I know you wrote to me about two. I already saw a snippet of. I think Pedro announced it once, or he told me you have a new record coming out with the quartet.
Yeah, that's right.
On Clean Feet, and I wanted to ask you. I haven't heard it yet, so it's not out yet. But like, who's in the band and what was the music and all that?
Like, the first record of the quartet. It's Antonin Rayon on piano, Bruno Chevillon, you know, of course, and on double bass, and Francois Merville on drums.
Oh, okay, super. Kind of old mates. But is it new music you wrote, or like improvised, or?
It's both. It's both. There's a lot of improvisation. I mean, what I try to do with this quartet is we have pieces, and often it's very short and quite difficult to play. But the rest is very open, so it's more like a improvising group.
Yeah. It's basically what you've been doing all the time, right? Like this idea of improvisation and composition, like really.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. Yeah.
Sometimes with this quartet, we most of the time we don't make any order. You know, we just go on stage and we don't know. Nobody knows what the first piece will be. So we start to play and we try to go through the whole program like this. You know, so
yeah.
Sometimes it works.
Yeah. So, no, yeah. But you mentioned you wrote these complicated short pieces. And how do you start with writing this stuff? You know, I've listened to your music for such a long time, and you know all the ECM records and even the earlier stuff, and it's really complex. Like many odd meters, also like complex themes. And how do you write a composition like these themes? What is your process usually?
Well, complex. I don't know, but. I usually, of course, don't use any harmonic situations, you know. So I'm more into many lines together, you know. It's more like a kind of very free counterpoint.
Yeah.
So it makes it sound very complex sometimes because you can have. Even in a simple quartet, you can have 3 or 4 different lines together, so it sounds like very thick sometimes, and but that's it. The most of the time, my work is what do I write for the double bass? What do I write for the piano? What is the role of the violin in the middle of that? Sometimes it's like a normal theme. Sometimes it's just a line between another. So.
But how do you start on? Do you like compose on violin or on piano or like just?
It's never on the violin. No.
Okay.
No. I don't play piano, so no. It's most of the time it's on paper.
Oh wow! Okay, wow.
I mean, I start most of the time on sheet of paper with a pencil.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And after that, when I think I have a good enough idea, I go to a computer and I work on the real composing work.
Yeah.
On the computer. That's it.
But do you like daily write out ideas, like and you gather them, or are you, how do you like prepare for a project? Like, do you have like a map of all the ideas, or just?
It usually takes me a very long time. I'm a very slow worker. I mean, I work a lot, but it takes time for me. So I know that. So I cannot. I cannot say, for example, I have a new project next month.
Okay.
So I have maybe 3 weeks to write the material and 1 week to rehearse. I cannot work like this.
Okay, interesting.
So difficult for me. So usually I think of the new project or programs very long in advance, And also I have a sort of, scrapbook where write some ideas. I can forget them sometimes during years. And sometimes I open this scrapbook and I said, oh, this is real shit. Or, maybe I could work on this material. It can be only a phrase, or I don't know, a series of notes. So that's how I work. I need a really long time.
Yeah. But you like this process of then composing, like? Yeah. Okay.
Very much.
Yeah. Okay. But I also wanted to, regard composition, ask you, like, you have like, I listened to the quartet and the ECM records, and many compositions are really long. And how do you envision like this development of a composition that, so sometimes you improvise and you guys go into like a theme and have like kind of this loose unisono, like you said, and then you go again somewhere. How do you structure a composition in that case?
Well, of course, I don't like a composition to end like it started, of course.
Yeah.
But it's more like it's more and more like some steps where we meet together again, and the road between these steps is more or less free,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's totally free. Sometimes it has a road book.
Yeah.
Minimum, and also I like the process of going out the writing, and like you can barely notice.
Yeah. I like that.
I like this. It's a game for me, really. It's like a game, and of course, it's like going back to composition. It's like sometimes you can do like okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, but sometimes something very, you realize. I like the fact that the listener can realize we are playing something written when we already played from the 2 minutes. Suddenly he realizes that it's not more improvised, something like that.
Yeah,
it's a game. I mean, I like to play games like this.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like this line is quite like blurry with compositions that you know, whether it's improvised or composed, it's really like an organism, like moving. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I like to use a material until the end. I mean, until I don't have any more idea for using it, you know. And so I don't know. It's I can use the same material in different pieces, for example.
Yeah. Rephrasing it, kind of. Yeah.
I consider that the form is more important than the material itself. It's what you do with that, which is important.
Yeah. But what you mentioned then? I mean, we wrote emails. You mentioned you also have a new septet record coming out. I didn't know about that, and I mean, this, or like having the septet, it's already like a bigger animal creature. It's a monster. 7 people, that's a lot. But how do you approach a septet? I mean, and what's the new record that's coming out?
It's a little bit different because the quartet is very free. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's only 4 people and it's like an organic thing. The septet is a little bit different. You have to write a little bit more, you know, more precisely. Even if I try to keep large sequences of totally improvised things. Okay. And also I try also to do some improvised parts in the middle of very written parts. You know, it's like how could I say, uncompleted writing. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For the septet, I can write quite precisely some lines for 4, 5, 6 musicians, and the 7th is free to play, but in the middle of a very dense material. So it's not like a solo. It's more like unwritten part. Like I was too lazy to, let's say, I was to write this last part. So you just have to improvise it.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
I count on you.
That's quite cool. Yeah, but you never had a septet, right? Out? Or
sorry?
This is the first record with the septet, right?
Yeah.
Oh, really looking forward to that. But I've read that you were, for this septet, that you were inspired by Paul Celan.
Yes, you've read that already.
No, I saw in some, like, I think on your website that you're really like, I mean, you know, I'm a poetry enthusiast, and I'm really curious, how do you get inspired by let's say, Celan or poetry? How does this influence your work? I mean, composition-wise, or?
This project is a little bit different. I have very often worked after some poetries, you know. But this one is a little bit different. I started with a poem by Celan, and I kept the prosody of and I put the words away. So I could, if I could, for example, tell you the words at the same time of the music, but in the music there is no words. So after years working on the text, you know, after the text, I decided that maybe there was another way to be inspired by the text. So there's a very special rhythm in Celan poetry, and including the
meter and form, and
the position on the page, you know. So I try to work like this very freely. Of course, it's not, you know.
But when did this begin? Like this love for poetry, like, and trying to influence your work. When did this start? Like really early, or?
I don't know. I'm a reader, reader of poetry and literature, and I had the opportunity to work with some actors, on stage for the theater, and after that to do some lectures with actors. And after that, I wanted to go a little bit deeper in the relationship between text and music.
Yeah, because like also in your solo one, the time before and time after, I think everything is related to poetry, right? In a way, so
yeah, that's different. It's more like a dedication.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it's I didn't think before playing.
Okay.
It's only in this solo record. It's only improvisation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
After that, you have to give titles.
Okay.
So I said, it's more like my own improvisation, where inspired me
to give
titles and to dedicate every piece to a certain poet.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about these solo improvisations and solo playing. We played some tours together and played some concerts, and I remember you're like, when you start improvising, it's just like, it's like a river that goes, and you just don't seem to run out of ideas. And I wanted to ask you, how do you approach, let's say, a solo violin concert? Like, how do you start an improv? What does go on in your head? Like,
well, it's a good question. Thank you. So, it's of course it's totally improvised, and I try to start from scratch, of course, but it can never be totally from scratch. I mean, it's the result of what you've been working on and what you have in mind. It belongs to you. I mean, what you play is already inside. But I try not to think in advance. That's it's more like that. I don't like this expression from scratch. I mean, because
it's not really.
It's just I try not to think in advance, and I like this feeling of going on stage, make in front of the people, and then at the very moment where you take the instruments, say, okay, now I have to play something.
Okay. Yeah.
And you play something, and you try to not to leave it. I mean, you try to hold it very, very strong, and to make something with it. And that's the challenge. I don't know if I can.
No, it is. Yeah, definitely.
That I like. I mean, it's like it's. I don't know. It's just that,
But do you have like, I've spoken to Stefano Battaglia about that, and we played together some free improvised concerts. And when we talked about free impros, we said like, okay, let's have one impro on melody, one impro on timbre, one on rhythm. Do you approach impros also like that you will say like, okay, I will start now with the rhythmical one, or you just actually really start with something and then you see where it goes? Or
of course, during a concert, you have to make some decisions like this. It's if you're playing from last 10 minutes something very, very slow, very very calm, maybe it's good to do something more nervous and, after that. So, but I try not to think in advance. I don't decide that.
Okay. Yeah.
for the concert, it's
yeah. That's so risky. It's so but it's cool. Yeah.
But it's a real pleasure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also, of course, an egotic, trip, a pleasure
Yeah.
also. I do that for me too, not only for. I mean, I like this feeling,
Yeah.
this risky feeling.
Walking on the edge, it's like yikes. It can be bad or really good. So yeah, I love that. It's quite cool.
You can have this feeling also with a band.
Yeah, sure. No, but it's playing solo. It's especially I guess with the violin, with the piano, it's so much normal and easier because you have such a scope with violin. Like for 1 hour and 20 minutes, it's quite
I start to with 20 minutes.
Okay, good.
The very first time, I was very, and I was very frightened.
You remember your first solo concert?
Yeah, I remember. I shared the stage with Bruno Chevillon, who had been asked to do a solo, and he called me and he said, "Well, Dominique, that was a long time ago. He was not used to that at that time either." And he called me and he said, "Well, that's very long. I don't feel like doing that again, doing that alone. And why do you think of the idea of sharing the time? I play a solo, you play a solo, and after that we play a chanteau." I said, okay, but I'd never had this experience myself.
Yes.
And so I had like 20 minutes to play, and I was scared to hell. And also I was really tired after 20 minutes because of tension.
Yeah.
And also playing alone during a long time without any pause, for a violin player, it's quite. I mean, people do that, but
sure.
But you have to be a little bit trained for that. So that was a very difficult experience, but a very exciting experience.
Yeah. You mentioned Bruno. I wanted to ask you. You guys seem to be go back, I guess, a really long time. When did you guys start playing together? When did you meet Bruno? I mean, like, he's one of your regular co-workers.
We met together in Louis Sclavis group.
Okay.
Louis had the quartet at that time with Bruno, Francois Rollin, and sometimes Jacques Mailleux, and Christian Ville also on drums. And he invited me several times. Then it became a quintet, really. And that was the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, I remember even when we played together, you're like, your chemistry together, it's so like, you just go. I love that. Like playing together for 30 years or more, I guess. So it's incredible. But you mentioned Louis Sclavis, and I think it's like this generation of you guys, Bruno and Louis and Marc Ducré, I guess also, when Vincent Courtois came later, right?
A little bit later.
A little bit younger. But how was it for you guys? Like, I think you guys founded like a new wave of improvised almost music in the 80s in France, one could call it. How did this all happen? How did this begin? Like, if you describe, I don't know, Paris scene in the 80s, let's say in your kind of field, like improvised, how did that start?
I have to say that it was not exactly the Paris scene,
okay.
At that time. That time, Louis Sclavis came from Lyon, and he belonged to this scene of some very improvised music oriented musicians, in Lyon, and Bruno came from Avignon, but he was very close to this scene in Lyon. And those guys were more involved into improvised music. Marc Ducré and me, we were from Paris. And so we were more jazz oriented, because it was in Paris that you have clubs, jazz clubs, and play centers and a lot of things. And so maybe what you mentioned is the meeting of those two orientations. Because we brought something to each other. I think.
I mean, it was definitely, especially a new movement, I would say, right? Movement. I mean, like you guys, I think, at least for me, musically, introduced some other idea, like you said, where the line between composed, even in Sclavis's band, like this boundary between composition and improvisation, it's kind of what you started for, in my ears, at least.
Well, I don't know if, I mean, you had something like that in the New York scene or so. I don't know. It's very difficult to talk about this when you're supposed to be part of it.
Sure.
That was also that was a great time in France. For that, not only in France, I suppose, because we toured a lot in Germany, for example, at that time, much more than now. But you had more and more places to play. Not only clubs, but also big scenes, and at that time they were maybe more welcoming, places that nowadays for this music, for music, jazz in general. So we were probably helped by the fact that we had many opportunities to play different situations, and that was very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, when was the moment? I know you did that first record in Insula, Dulcamara, right, with Jean-Paul Celea and Wolfgang. No.
I'm impressed.
No, but
that's archaeology.
Yeah, but it's like 80s still, right? End of 80s.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when was the moment that you decided to become a band? Because this is your first album as a band leader. When was that moment that you said, like, okay, I wanna put out an album like under my own name? How did this happen? Like,
I don't know. At that time, we were not into making albums, very soon in our career or our work, But we had a lot of groups, It was very easy to put a group together, For example, we had some clubs in Paris where you could play 1 week long, It was very easy to have maybe 2, 3, 4 gigs like this. So 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Wow.
during 1 year, for example. So it was very easy to tell people, okay, I'm putting a group together. Do you want to play drums with me? And you know, it had a sense, you know.
Yeah.
So it was not like nowadays where you have to work a lot to put all, you know, together, and you know, you have to call your friends and maybe this period are you free?
Yeah.
And it's very, you know, it's a very risky situation now. No, it was that time. It was a very easy, and I didn't think of doing a record because it was quite difficult at that time, much more than now. And I was proposed by a very young label, French label, to do this record. So I had a group with Wolfgang Reisinger, who is also Francois Couturier.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
And on keyboards, and Heiri Kaenzig, a Swiss bass player at that time. And I invited also Jean-Paul Celea on the record. So, how can I say? It was not like a project, you know. We use these words nowadays, you know. Project. I have a project and together a project. No, that was just my group at that time, you know.
Yeah.
It was very easy.
Did you like do you remember how it was for you, like when you first becoming a band leader? Like, I mean, still now, do you like doing this? Like, you know, because you have to direct people and you have to put everything together. How is it for you, like being a band leader, or it was even? I mean,
I don't know what to say. It's a very difficult job to be a band leader, I guess. I mean, it's just because it's a very precise job, you know.
Yeah.
It's a work that you have to, and I think it took me years and years before becoming good enough band leader, you know? On every aspect of this work, you know. Using the people, organizing the music, telling what you want, accepting, you know, what the other tell you.
Yeah, sure.
It's and talking to the rest of the world also. No, it's really difficult. I like it because I like to
do your own. Yeah.
That's but it's more and more difficult, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that was so much better before.
No, I know.
But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes I'm tired of it.
Yeah, can you imagine?
So I try not to. For instance, right now, I just want to play like a song.
Yeah.
We just want to play, you know, in one situation or another.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, but I don't feel like putting a band together with, you know, 7 people. It's such a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, but probably in 1 year, I will have an idea. Yes, I want to do that. It's crazy, but I want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it's hard. It's just like we still do have this urge that we all know how heavy it is to lead a band, but still you do it. It's funny, right? Because it's something that, I don't know, tells you like, oh yeah, it would be cool to do it.
But as I said, in the 80s, you could put a band together and have several, gigs in clubs and some concerts very easily.
Yeah.
If you put them together right now, you have to maybe talk to 2 or 3 festivals.
Yeah.
They say yes. You said, okay, I have 3 gigs. That's enough. It's good if I have more, but because if you wait for 15 gigs, you never do nothing. So it's a little bit frustrating also.
No, definitely. I know what you mean. Yep. I can imagine. I mean, I can just imagine how it's like when musicians talk about the New York scene in the 70s, or it's, I guess, the same how it was also in Paris at 80s and 90s. So, yeah.
More or less, that was like this year. But it's the reason I was very impressed by the work you did when we did 2 tours.
2 tours, yeah. One in quartet and one in trio, yeah.
Yeah, and I was very impressed because I said I'm not able to do that.
Oh, you did it. No, but it's heavy. I know what you mean. It's getting really, more and more clubs are closing also, and it's hard to. I remember 20 years ago, you could easily do. I remember one of my first tours was a sextet, 6 people, with Paulino Dalla Porta and David Binney, and like really amazing players. And we toured, I think, 12 concerts only in Slovenia. So it was a tour of jazz concerts, like well paid, everything. Yeah. Now it's like, no way, maybe 1 or 2, 3, oof, that's a lot, So it has changed, yeah. It's quite funny. But Dominique, I wanted to ask you something. You mentioned in the 80s, like you and Ducré, you played a lot in clubs and standards also. I wanted to go even back and ask you, you started with violin? Violin was your primary instrument, right? And what was the reason you started going into jazz? I mean, I guess Stefan Grappelli or someone, but what was the main trigger when you said like improvisation? That's the thing I want to discover.
Well, it's just like because you meet people, that was several triggers. My violin teacher played me some record of Stefan Grappelli. He was a classical player. He was a member of a very famous string quartet in France. But he was a great admirer of Grappelli, and he played me these records. After that, I met some guys at the high school. They were playing, pop rock, and they came to me and they said, "Oh, you play violin? That's great." I was okay. We have a group. You should play with us. So I started to play, other things than
classical. Yeah.
I was like 12 or
wow.
And we had some older friends who knew more than we did about harmonies, chords. And they were involved in jazz. So I started like this, and little by little. And of course, my first groups were with standards, including something like Giovenuti, Eddie Long, Giovenuti, old stuff at the beginning of jazz, and I studied all that stuff, and we played it on stage quite often at that time. That's it.
I know you, when we were playing, I know you told me, you and Michel actually told me in a van once, you played like with Alpha Blondie also in the 80s.
Yes, that's right. We played together, not on a record, not on stage.
Ah, okay. That's quite cool. That's no, but I also wanted to ask you one thing. We mentioned before, your solo record, and also the quartet with Bruno and Francois Merville that you guys did, and Francois Couturier. You did records with ECM a lot, and I wanted to ask you, how did this connection happen, and how was it like to work with Manfred, having such a big heritage behind it? The ECM.
I think the first record we did for ECM was with this quintet, this famous quintet I told you about, with Sclavis. And there was François Rollin, Bruno Chevillon, and Christian Ville on drums, and the connection was through Louis.
That was Rouge. No, that's not Rouge. No, that's Rouge. Yeah.
And after that, I did several records with Louis for ECM, but after a while, we did this duo album with Francois Couturier. The end of the 80s, 90s. I guess, and that's it. And the work, it's funny because it's very. People often ask this question about.
Okay.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's. I like it because it's not. It doesn't have to be what you would have done if you were by yourself,
Yeah.
But it's always what he says is always pertinent. Je ne sais pas comment dire.
Like on place, or
yes,
makes sense. Yeah.
Was clever.
Yeah.
Maybe you would have made another choice, but it's never something totally stupid, So if you are on ECM, you have to accept that, because it's the color he likes to do. If you don't want that, you can go.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's so it's there is a real faith, and trust between Manfred and his artists.
Yeah, I think
it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, it sounds everything you guys put out, it sounds amazing, of course. Also with Stefano Battaglia, I love those projects with Vincent Courtois as well, and it's like beautiful. And Michel, no, with Michel, it's not an ECM, but on Splash. But I just wanted to ask you one last thing, Dominique. You've done so much work also as a collaborator, and there's one record I have which I really love and I find so interesting, is with Tim Berne, and. I've spoken with Tim as well, and about his approach to music and everything. And this Insomnia project you guys did, how did that happen? Because it's like a meeting of you and Ducre and all the amazing American guys like Chris Pete and Baikida Carroll. And how was that happening?
This record is Insomnia.
Insomnia, yeah.
Clean feed, yeah. Well, it's funny because I knew Tim for years, and we played together.
Oh, really? Oh,
When I
wow.
was on tour in Paris. We had dinner together, and very often, and we had never played together. At that time, he played already with Ducret, and I went very often to listen to them when they played in Paris. So we are quite close without having played one note together. And once he had this proposition in Germany, I guess, to do a special project with a lot of people. We were 8.
Yeah, it's like a big one. Yeah.
And well, he called me because there was also Eric Friedlander on cello, so it made sense to have two strings plus Ducret plus Baikila Carol.
Yeah.
For my leg. And that's it. It's I must say I like this this idea of knowing someone without being obliged to do something for a long time. We know each other. We're friends sometimes, and we talk a lot together, but we don't play music.
Yeah, that's good.
One time, one day, you say, okay, it's time.
Yeah, let's do it.
I like this idea.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I like that. But did you play? Just one more question. I wanted to ask you that also when we were playing, but I never did. I know when you play a lot of also distortion. I mean, a lot. Sometimes you press the pedal so that you get this crazy violin sounds like an electric guitar or through amplifier. Not anymore. You did like still a couple of years ago.
I don't play electric violin anymore at all.
No, but like you played acoustic and then you went through this distortion pedals. And I wanted to ask you, when does this happen? Like this idea, when did you start doing that? Like,
yeah, that's I don't use any pedal at all now.
But when we played, you did, right?
I don't. I mean, I don't feel that. But at that time, yes, I had. I had this feeling. It's because mainly that was impossible to have a proper acoustic sound.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I used to do like everybody else, using an amp.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, it's totally impossible to have a real, acoustic sound. I mean, it's more or less close to the acoustic, but it's so I didn't want to try to have an acoustic sound. So I said, okay, let's try to have a dirty sound.
Yeah, I loved it.
Sound with this grain and like guitar. That was the main idea, but now I don't play anymore.
Okay. I didn't know. Okay.
With an app,
okay.
Which is sometimes difficult because for the others, because now the technique is we have very good microphones now, but even, I mean, you can play if everybody plays really, really loud, including amplified instruments or drums. So you have to pay attention. It's not like it's not like I don't like that. I like when it's loud, but if I want to play the violin, I cannot play like this.
Yeah, sure.
I had a choice.
Makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Samo.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.